Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Yes, I realise I did Red Dead Redemption 2 yesterday, when you were expecting it to be today. I was expecting today to be yesterday. The kitten has got me so tired and ass backwards I've forgotten what day of the week it is. I actually thought yesterday was Saturday. So, hope you're enjoying your weekend, and welcome to World of Warships. For today's viewing entertainment, we have a comedy of errors starring Geodux in the Soviet Tier 7 destroyer, the Minsk. It's more going to be a highlight reel, because he freely admits that he didn't really do particularly well in this battle, until the end. And it's the end that we're mostly going to be focused with. If you can hear any crunching noises in the background, that's Akazuki having some foodies. She's actually eating her solid food now. We started mixing it with the wet food, and she started to develop a taste for it, which is good. You may also, at irregular intervals throughout this video, hear meowing and chirping in the background, because I used to wait until she was all tired out and having a good sleep before I started recording, but there just aren't enough hours in the day for that, so... If you hear a kitten looking for attention, yeah, deal with it. I'm too tired to care. Oh, anyway, back to the battle. She's really getting into that dry food. Right, sorry, getting distracted again. So, like I said, the beginning of this battle, in fact the majority of this battle, there's not a huge amount happens, but we're going to skip ahead to the relevant points. Note that there are carriers in this battle, one on each team, and that's going to be quite critical. Geodux is about to have a bit of action involving two of the enemy destroyers, and the results of this initial contact are pretty much going to lay the template for how the rest of this battle is going to go for his team. And I don't really think it's going to be too much of a spoiler if I tell you right now, it's not going to be good. Now, every destroyer captain's favourite moment, enemy aircraft incoming. The Minsk is very, very fast, but it is definitely not very stealthy. However, from the air, without camo, it will only be detected from a range of 3.46 kilometers. And if you want to keep it at 3.46 kilometers and give the carrier the minimum necessary amount of time to react and target you once you're spotted, press P, which is what Geodux has just done, to turn off your secondaries and your anti-aircraft guns. And that keeps your surface detection range until you fire your guns at 3.46 kilometers. Under the circumstances, however, I think he's entirely justified at letting rip at that Akatsuki. His first salvo knocked out his engine, which means the Akatsuki has just used his damage control, and is coming under attack from the carrier on Geodux's team. But a second enemy destroyer, the Anshan, has just entered the battle and is going for his division mate. And since the Akatsuki has now smoked up, and the friendly carrier has expended the last of its rocket attack planes attacking the Akatsuki, he switches to the Anshan. His division mate in the Mayhan is in a spot of bother here, but then again so is the Anshan, although the Akatsuki has of course managed to get his torpedoes away. There they are. None of which of course is going to matter, because the Algerie on the team blunders right into them anyway, and the Anshan finishes off his division mate in the Mayhan. And now, old Geodux is coming under attack from not one, not two, but three enemy ships. There's a Fiji in the background, on the far side of the smoke screen, which the Akatsuki has just reversed into. Geodux wisely decides that that's far too much attention for one underage boat, pops his smoke screen, and does his best to go undetected. They're still shooting at him, but they can't actually see him anymore. So, that's nice. Now, there was a Fiji down there, remember? In fact, the Fiji's the one that's actually done most of the damage to him. I'm not entirely sure whether or not that's the Fiji smokescreen or the Akatsuki smokescreen or a combination of both. But there were also a pair of New Yorks, a Colorado, and a Congo down there. And that's not good. And there's not a huge amount of friendly ships up here in a position to do anything about them if they all start charging up this side of the map. Hopefully, the Fiji will overextend. And that's more or less exactly what he appears to have done. Very lightly armoured cruiser, already lost a large chunk of health, and charging up into a bunch of friendly battleships. Now he does have some support behind him, but they're a fair old distance behind him, with the exception of the Akatsuki. And if I was that Fiji, I wouldn't be feeling quite that confident, but maybe he knows something we don't. Geodux starts shooting at him with the high explosive. I can't help but feel, although we're kind of nitpicking here, because 130mm high explosive does reasonably large chunks of damage to lightly armoured cruisers like that. But I suspect at that kind of range, and with the flat firing arcs of Soviet 130mm armour piercing, that if he had been firing armour piercing, he would have done a lot more damage to the Fiji. But, well, he still hurt him, he still set him on fire, and he still forced him to smoke up. Of course, in the process, he's attracting a lot of very unwelcome attention, and he has actually managed to sink the Fiji. That final fire that he set was enough to do the job, so yeah, the Fiji pretty much overextended there. But the Fiji did at least manage to get his torpedoes away before he died, and while it's not a particularly good trade, a very good Tier 7 light cruiser for a, well, not bad Tier 5 French battleship, he did at least manage to get a kill before he burnt to death. So things aren't going particularly well for Geodux's team, but don't worry, they can always get worse. You can't see it from this perspective, but the Hatsuharu on the team just got himself obliterated by an Ashitaka's secondaries. Like me, you're probably trying to figure out what the hell a Hatsuharu was doing that close to an Ashitaka for in the first place. But without pausing for a breath, the Ashitaka follows up his performance with a kill on the New Orleans. Shortly afterwards, still down 2 kills to 5, and being harassed by enemy aircraft, Geodux spots a very suspicious-looking smokescreen that was sheltering the enemy Minsk, who had been subjecting the Koenig on the team just behind Geodux to a withering hail of high explosive fire, and has in fact just sunk him by burning him to death. This is of course incredibly bad news for Geodux, because while it might look like a fair fight, the enemy Minsk has a lot more health, and there are rocket attack planes coming in. At this point, the only thing Geodux wants to do is to disengage and get the hell out of this fight. While he's doing that, the friendly Colorado actually manages to kill something. He doesn't get too long to celebrate his victory, however, because practically before his guns are reloaded, he sells into a bunch of torpedoes fired by an enemy fur attacker. And then just a few scant seconds later, that enemy Minsk grabs his second kill by sinking the friendly fur attacker. It's at this point, low on health and even lower on teammates, that Geodux decides it's time to go for the Hail Mary. It's standard battle, there are only 2 bases, not multiple capture points, and with only 3 surviving teammates against 9 enemies, they're probably not going to win this one by sinking all of the enemy ships. Of course, with a carrier in play, it's going to take a miracle for them to be able to win by Geodux capping out. But what choice does he have? The only thing good about this situation is that all 9 of those enemy ships, well, barring the carrier, have swept around the flanks and are basically attacking Geodux's 3 surviving teammates from both sides. But that means that Geodux has a clear run straight down the middle into the enemy cap. Of course, the problem here is that the second he enters the cap circle, he's effectively no longer in stealth. Everybody on the enemy team who can count to 4 now knows exactly where this pesky little Minsk is. And while you could guess with a reasonable degree of certainty that 8 out of the 9 enemy ships are probably too far away to do anything about it, although the enemy Minsk is probably quick enough to get back, it's the carrier that's going to be the problem. And since the New Orleans on the enemy team has just sunk Geodux's carrier, he can't count on any friendly fighter support. He is very much 100% completely on his own down here. Also, down here in the enemy cap circle, he's probably uncomfortably close to the enemy carrier. But what's the enemy carrier actually doing? Well, if you have a look at the map, he's dive bombing the Colorado. In fact, he's just sunk the Colorado. And now, it looks like he's dive bombing the Congo. Can't help but feel that there are more important things that he could be doing with his aircraft, rather than farming damage and kills. But since they're up there, and they're probably taking anti-aircraft fire from the Congo anyway, why the hell not? Once he's completed his attack run on the Congo, he's going to be able to get fresh aircraft into the air, and he's not going to be very far away from Geodux here in the Minsk. And there's only so much cap circle here for him to hide in. Now, it's also worth pointing out that even though the friendly Ranger has been sunk, he still has a squadron of attack aircraft in the air. And he's using those attack aircraft to keep resetting the cap up in the northern end of the map, to buy Geodux some more time down here. The Congo, presumably, is also, hopefully, targeting enemy ships that are actually inside the cap circle. But what's the enemy carrier doing? Well, he has actually realised that he needs to do something about the fact that his base is being capped, but it's taken him longer to get his aircraft over here, spot Geodux, and hit him than you might have expected for a couple of reasons. First, he did loiter around using up his dive bombers on the Congo and the Colorado, probably for longer than he should have. But also, he's not lurking around here down at the southern end of the map. He's been a good carrier player, and he's moved up to support the rest of his team in their attack on Geodux's base. And that means it's taken this long for him to get his rocket attack planes recycled into the air and over here in the direction of his own cap circle. And Geodux still has a smokescreen. The Congo has now died, reducing Geodux's team to 34 points, but he did reset the cap in the process. The enemy carrier now has to take a blind shot into the smokescreen with his rockets, and he misses. And he's only going to get one chance. And unbelievably, 1 versus 9, after doing less than 20,000 damage, that is a solo warrior for Geodux in the Minsk. Now, I realise nobody's going to be going crazy about the kills and the damage numbers, because it was pretty terrible. But there was only ever one way that Geodux's team were going to win that match, and Geodux did exactly the right thing at the right time. And it's just amazing that the enemy team let him do it. It's tempting to lay the blame for that shocking defeat snatched from the jaws of victory squarely at the feet of the enemy carrier, but while he certainly has to accept some of the blame, he wasn't the only ship on the enemy team that was going to be in a position and fast enough to come back and actually do something about Geodux's solo warrior. But unfortunately for them, and very fortunately for Geodux, far too many of the ships on the enemy team were more concerned with farming kills and damage than actually winning the match. And so they lost. Remember kids, caps are important. They're there for a reason. And on that bombshell, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're all having a great weekend, now that it is actually the weekend. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.